Good day, everyone, and it's Ekesin here. And today is another episode on Builders Corner, a storytelling series where we spotlight builders, hear their stories, their wins, their losses, the doubts, the sleepless nights, and all of that. And today with me, I have someone that has been building on chain and has been in the industry for a while now. So let's get to hear from him. Today I have ichristwin.
Hello everyone, my name is ichristwin. I'm also known as ichristwin in the Web3 space. And like he said, I've been a builder in this space for quite a while, and I'm actually really excited to be here in the Builders Corner to talk with everybody and get to know more on what's happening in the Web3 space generally.
Okay, so what do you do in this space?
There's not much to say. I'm a developer. I'm what they call a dev.
Okay, so are you a front end, back end?
Kind of. I do all of them. I'm a full stack developer.
Full stack.
Yeah. So I've kind of been in the space for a while, and I've been building across the stack for all the years of my life.
Damn, is a full stack because he said it's full.
Yes, as you can imagine. So it took a lot of, like, you can imagine how many hours of my life I've been dedicated to code to get to this point. So like, it's quite a lot actually.
Yeah, it's not easy. Wow, is that having you here?
So, likewise.
Before you became a builder, what were you? Before you started building, became a developer, started building stuff.
The best way to describe what I was before I started like actually developing is more of like I was a studious person. I was very inquisitive and I like to explore the world and try to understand how things work. So it was most of that curiosity that led me into being a developer in the first place, to discover the joy of writing code and making code software products generally. So I would call myself like I'm a student basically.
A student.
Exactly.
He just wants to make himself humble. He's no student. He's the one who was student because he has to learn, unlearn, and relearn. So even myself, I'm a student. We're all students.
We're all students actually. Yes.
So yeah. Now I know that you have built a lot of projects. Like I said, you're a full stack developer.
Yeah.
Back end, front end, middle end is the. So yeah. Have you built on base before?
Oh yeah, I've built on base.
So what have you built on base?
Okay, so well, I've built quite a lot of interesting niche products on base. And for those of us that are familiar with the social network known as Farcaster,
yeah.
So when I joined Farcaster, there was this interesting product type called a frame. So that was last year, I guess. And I started using Farcaster, and I found it very interesting that you could actually build these embeddable applications within Farcaster itself that people can interact with it natively in the context of the social network, yeah, without actually leaving the app or signing in with a different credential or something like that. So, and Farcaster was like an ecosystem that had strong ties with Base. So most of the frames I designed on Farcaster actually had their on-chain parts running on Base. So you had like frames that you could use to mint and tokenize various parts of Farcaster. So you could have like moments that happen on Farcaster that you want to tokenize. You could actually use a frame on Farcaster. I built one of those that allows you to be able to actually like quickly reference a quote and kind of like mint it as a token on Base. I did a project where you could actually crowdfund a solar lantern for the solar foundation on Base.
So how many frames have you built on Base?
Okay, about 9 frames. So
9. Are you about to overtake Farcaster?
There are even much more voracious builders on Farcaster that build like frames every week. So yeah.
Man, I need to up my building game for it. I'm not building anything. I'm just saying consuming. No, I'm building though, I'm not consuming.
Yeah.
We are doing both consuming.
I can see you're actually building. So there's proof of build.
At least if you say I'm building, that means I'm building. So
He's a builder.
I'm a proud builder now.
He's in fact a builder.
So you said you have built a lot of frames on base, on
Yeah,
Farcaster precisely.
yeah.
So what are some? Can you talk about one or two that didn't go out well or that didn't? How many of them are still active?
Okay, I think I still have two that I
Okay,
maintain. Yeah.
okay. So those that were not active, what are the lessons you've learned so far? And what happened so
Okay.
that others watching the video can learn?
Yeah, so I think what actually happened with those that didn't really go as well as I would have imagined them is I kind of built them with the mindset of trying to cater to the trend at the moment. So, if you've been on Farcaster also, you know that sometimes there's a meta, something
Yeah.
that becomes the meta of Farcaster, and everybody rallies around that stuff and start to like launch products around it. So, not actually thinking about the product from like a product design standpoint, but more of like I'm trying to be part of this larger hype or trend and launch
Yeah.
something.
That wave of
Exactly. So the wave comes, the wave
good.
goes, and most of those frames kind of disappeared. They're no longer being talked about or used because the meta has shifted to something else. So yeah, it's either I have the ability to continue actually chasing the meta to wherever it goes, or I try to actually build something that has like much more sustainable use case and audience that people stick around to use.
Yeah, and I think those frames now are called mini apps.
Yeah, actually, they were renamed to mini
We're
apps.
into
Yeah,
mini apps. So
exactly.
it's talking about mini apps. So I know that some people were not in the field of frames, so you don't get confused and be like, frames, okay. There's no frame of
Yeah,
Pakistan. It's called mini apps.
yeah.
So he has built 9 mini apps. Only two are active now, and then he has told us the lesson he has learned from the seven that have gone.
Yeah.
Tell us about yourself. You are a person behind this, but just tell us a brief intro about it. Just not a brief intro. We know about your introduction. Just tell us something.
I've been in the Web3 space for a while. I've been in the Web3 space for as long as I can actually program. So back in in 2017, I actually got started in the world of software development. It was around the same time while I was learning how to write code in Python that I began to hear about this thing called Bitcoin. So at first, I didn't really know what Bitcoin was, but I just made up like a narrative in my head of okay, Bitcoin sounds like it's an in-game currency. Maybe like there's this massive multiplayer game, and there's a currency
Yes, yes,
inside there, and
and
there's
Bitcoin is the coin.
yeah, exactly. But that's kind of like how I understood it without doing any research into it. But after some time, I was hearing about all these ransomware attacks or people hacking into systems, kind of encrypting all the files in that system and demanding Bitcoin. I was like, this in-game currency, is it that valuable? That was the first time I was like, okay, let me just look into this and actually find out what Bitcoin is. And I was blown away by what I found out by actually taking the time to read about Bitcoin, going through the white paper, and really fascinating technology. Dove down the rabbit hole and discovered Ethereum, discovered smart contracts, programmability. And, I was also learning to program at that point. So I moved immediately to start programming Solidity. I started building my first smart contract. And I've been in the Ethereum ecosystem ever since 2017.
Wow. Damn. Wow. 2017.
Yeah.
That's over 8 years now.
Yeah.
So why software development? Why full stack?
Back in 2017, when I was getting started, I was really excited about the tech space. So I wanted to do something awesome like Zuckerberg. And, that involved actually building something in tech space. There was Steve Jobs, Zuckerberg, Larry Page. These guys were the
Yes,
names.
no,
Those days.
yes, yes.
You know what I'm talking
And
about.
then a period.
Exactly, exactly. So I was really, really fascinated by what people were able to actually accomplish by being able to build on these powerful computer systems that are taking over the world. So, and the barrier to entry was basically just have a laptop that you could actually start writing code on. In fact, to be honest, when I started coding, I didn't even have a laptop. I started coding on my mobile phone. There was this Android app called Temox.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes,
So
yes,
if you know Temox, you know that it's basically a terminal emulator
yes.
that runs on Android, and it basically gives you the whole Linux experience. Maybe not the whole Linux experience, but most of the Linux experience for you to actually get into that mode of being a developer. And I stayed doing that while I had no money for a laptop. That has been the journey. It's something that if you're curious enough, you would actually find a way to actually start doing something interesting in that space. Once you have like an internet connection and a laptop, could actually create something wonderful.
Yeah, true. Internet connection. If it's only internet connection and phone you have, you can start somewhere.
Yeah, you
Then you
can.
can get a laptop, and with time you can now start giving out laptop like him. What's something that people assume about you that is wrong? Maybe it's a stereotype as a builder. As a developer. But I have a sort of that software developers are antisocial.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. Well, in my case, you might actually be right. I'm anti-social.
the antisocial they're both conversationalists, so for real.
Oh yeah. Well, being a developer, I had to actually start broadening my comfort zone. Building applications is not just it. You need to actually market your application.
Yes.
You need to actually work with people. So these things bring the necessity to just come out of their comfort zone, start socializing with people, get to interact a lot more. And yeah, you end up becoming all those other things that people assume you're not.
So in your own case, what was it?
Yeah, people tend to assume that we kind of have this wizardry that we do behind the scene that we have it all figured out.
What this abracadabra?
Exactly. Like if you see a developer with a laptop, you're like, okay, he's doing that kind of hacking magic kind of.
I'll print out dollars.
Oh my god! If you actually
Then you
know
let him.
what a developer is doing, most of it is just like he's struggling with an error. So most of development is debugging, like you're trying to find out why your code doesn't work because most times your code doesn't work. So it's fine. I actually like the stereotype that people think that we are actually these geniuses.
Yes.
Yeah, but in reality, no. We're going through a lot of mental stress trying to actually get this thing to work. Nothing really works the way like
Sometimes
it looks. Yeah. Yeah.
So yes, now we have heard about many apps he has built and lessons he has learned from some of them not being active now, some of them fading away because they were built on trend and hype and he channeled it into it and it didn't work out. It was meant to be built so from more of a problem solving side. So what are you currently working on?
My current engagement is mostly with these interesting Web3 protocols that I'm developing alongside a couple of other people.
Okay.
Known as the Metering Protocol. So the Metering Protocol, think of it like a DPIN. It's kind of designed.
What's a DPIN? Sorry, what's a DPIN?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So just like we have too many acronyms in Web3.
Yeah.
So DPIN is decentralized physical infrastructure networks. Okay. So it's a way that Web3 has been used as a mechanism to bootstrap networks. You can imagine you want to set up like a network of Wi-Fi devices across like a city. You could either start a company that has the ability to raise funding, get all the Wi-Fi devices, partner with an ISP, and then provide this Wi-Fi coverage all across the city. Or you could go the decentralized route where you have a lot of different people purchase those Wi-Fi devices and interconnect them such that they work like as one big network. There's no one single person that has the responsibility of keeping the entire network online, but with the right incentives, everybody that has a Wi-Fi device would want to keep theirs online so that they could receive those incentives, those tokens. And that's kind of how the Web3 space has started to tackle physical network challenges. So you have this cutting across many different types of network products. And what we're working on the metering protocol is trying to do something similar but for energy. So if you're from around here, you'll just know that electricity is quite a challenge to get reliably because of the situation of the national grid. And the technology is actually here and mature enough to allow us to actually do this with decentralized infrastructure like solar. So having solar as the unit of electricity infrastructure and interconnecting them in a seamless manner to kind of create citywide or nationwide energy networks is what we're working on.
Wow. So you mean that you're trying to rely the energy of, let's say, Enugu State to individuals who have solar systems installed in their homes. So they are connected. Like if I want, let's say, if I want to get, I don't want to use the normal traditional electricity provider, and then I want to use the Dimitri protocol provider. So I will now meet you guys, and then you guys will connect my home to your decentralized network of energy providers in Enugu State. That's
okay. So it doesn't really work exactly like that, but I think you get the idea. How it works is that we're trying to build like a protocol, a series of like steps that anybody that has this infrastructure can actually interconnect with any other person's infrastructure to create that network. So the protocol itself is like, okay, this is how we want to actually architect this network. And anybody that has maybe battery systems, solar panels, small hydropower, electric turbine, we can all just start interconnecting with each other. And that person could bring distribution wires, and that person could bring like maybe energy storage infrastructure. Mm-hmm. All of us want to like have a protocol for my infrastructure to connect to your own.
Okay.
Like I provide you this service, this is how I get paid for that service, and everybody's like playing their own part in that big infrastructure network rather than relying on, let me say, the government or a private company to do all of those things. Each person can just focus on their own unit of that infrastructure and receive incentives for doing that. Yeah.
So where will the incentives come from?
Okay, so actually the incentives come in a variety of ways. So we have like actual real revenue that the network is able to generate. So obviously the network is going to be a valuable infrastructure that generates real demand in the world in terms of people buying electricity and selling electricity to it. So that particular inflow from the real world is being able to actually like be channeled into various participants that play in that role. So on the Web3 side of things, we usually have these things called like a power purchase agreement, which is a kind of contract. You usually see all these energy businesses, they have it between themselves that, okay, you have this PPA, the power purchase agreement between this infrastructure provider and this infrastructure consumer. We put the PPA on chain. So we have like a smart contract that does exactly that same thing. And everybody is able to like connect a smart meter to the infrastructure, deploy a power purchase agreement on chain, and then your smart meter is able to execute the terms of that contract at the infrastructure level. So let me say you have a battery bank and you're connected directly to a solar farm. The solar farm wants to sell electricity to you during the daytime at so rate. So it's a smart contract that exists on chain. Your smart meter is able to actually measure the amount of energy that is being generated from the solar farm and be able to actually like send payments into that contract for the generation, for the generator, the person owning the generation to take. And then when somebody wants to buy electricity from your battery bank, the person can also do something similar. They have like their load connected to your battery bank. It's meter, you see the energy flows. The smart contract is keeping track of all the flows and finances on the on-chain side. And the meter itself is keeping track of energy flows on the infrastructure side.
Damn, this is a crash course. Crash course on DP. Wow. Yeah. I need to stretch because...
Yeah.
Wow. This is why you watch videos like this to get enlightened on excellent technology, so you don't get left behind.
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to ask a question. As a builder, what do you do when you get stuck?
I think for me personally, I've always liked to play games. So whenever I'm like in a situation where I'm unable to actually like push through a challenge, I tend to just close that work and play like a strategy game. So for those familiar with Clash of Clans,
Yes.
I like to. I have
okay.
like a village on Clash of Clans that I've been working on. So
Wow.
doing all those.
Working both on chain and off. He's
So-
building clans.
So yeah, the games like that, it's not just Clash of Clans, other strategy games similar to that. I enjoy playing them. So it's kind of mentally tasking per se, but it's also like stimulating. So I enjoy thinking about those problems when I'm stuck in this other thing. And it helps me just relieve that anxiety I have. Take that cool, like when I start get stuck at a problem, you start to overthink. Your brain is in hyperactive mode, but nothing is actually moving.
Yes.
So rather than just getting frustrated at that problem, you take all that energy and put it into like this video game. It gets
then-
everything out of you. And then you're good.
And be a good strategist.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's one thing you wish you knew when you were beginning as a builder?
Okay. One thing.
If you ask me, I'll say I wish I knew Bitcoin earlier, but I'll use my school fees to buy Bitcoin.
Okay,
and
that's an interesting one.
So that's the you should do.
As a builder, I wish I wish I realized the importance of like compounding effect of things. Like it's over time that I've come to realize that things that you do have this compounding effect over time. And it might look like something that I started today is not going to actually go anywhere, but you see people that actually stick to what they started and continue to do that, it begins to actually like the net result of that thing starts from like looking non-existent to beginning to look it's there, very material, then it's disproportional to the effort that they're putting in. Like they're getting way more results from this thing now than the unit effort they put in over time. So it's kind of compound and it compounds like exponentially. So I don't know that many people are aware of this, especially in anything that you want to do in life. I personally learned that lesson, and it kind of have made me to be a lot more patient when I start doing something. So just have that mindset that okay, this thing has this growth curve that is exponential in nature. It's just a matter of sticking out the worst part of it, which is when you're starting. When I was starting my startup, there was obviously a lot of work I did in the early days. It was a company that had no name, like there was no product, no reputation. So you put sweat and blood into this thing for 1 year. It doesn't show anywhere. But by the time you actually have like stayed in that company and have done something for 5 years, you get like you'll be sleeping and you'll be getting notifications on okay, this is now moving to this stage. This is like it's just starts moving. Like you don't need to push it anymore. The stone is rolling now, and it's getting easier to actually continue doing it. I just think for most people, they maybe don't realize this. I myself, I didn't realize it when I was starting that it compounds over time, and it's the hardest when you're starting. You just have to understand that this thing gets better as you progress and begin to make that progress, then begin to see everything fall in line. So that's one thing that I myself, I personally wish I realized. Anybody that is building something, anybody that's starting something, if you are able to actually like understand that this is actually how things work, it will give you a lot more confidence in starting what you want to start, because the challenging parts would end and you start seeing the fruits of your labor. You see more fruits than the labor.
So in summary, you might not start seeing the results you desire when you just start, but with time.
Yeah.
Just like they always say, 1% every day, you become 265%
So,
in a year better
yeah.
than when you started that year. So yeah, the effect of compound effect, keep doing that thing,
Yeah.
keep hitting. If water keeps hitting a rock, over time it breaks. So just
Yeah.
keep doing what you're doing. And with time, the visibility, the connections, the funds, the what you need, the network, we can start coming in
Yeah.
because you have put in the work behind the scenes. So what's one platform you can't live without as a builder?
Oh, yeah, that's a very good one. Um, hmm. I love the Linux ecosystem, and it's kind of like where I maybe started everything. Everything started from me being into the Linux ecosystem, writing open source code, using open source code. And I think most developers will also agree with me that Linux is just like a very powerful platform to be using. And it's, I don't know, but it has created a lot of value for people that have been using it, even though everything in that ecosystem is actually being designed to be completely free and available to any other person. So it's kind of the same ethos that started the Web3 space, where you want to write smart contracts, you want to put it on chain, you want to make it available for any other person to come and use without, like, say, pay $25 every month to get access to this application. So the Linux ecosystem has had a strong influence on Bitcoin, and Bitcoin had a lot of influence on Ethereum, and you can see that also applying to all the L2s, including Base. And that particular ecosystem, it's something that many people may not talk about a lot, but I think understanding how things work in that space will give you a lot more understanding of why the crypto space works the way it is, because it's just like a fraction of the open source community that eventually started the Bitcoin movement, and then we have like the whole crypto thing better out of it. So yeah.
What communities have shaped your journey as a builder? What communities that have contributed in? I know that you probably have 8,000 communities, some even 10,000, but then just randomly mention 3 communities that have shaped you to
Okay.
what you are today. Let's give a shout out to them for
Okay.
shaping you.
So I've really benefited a lot from being in the communities for Python developers. Like,
Okay.
um, that was where, like, I started writing code. It's one of, like, programming languages I still use a lot today, even that AI is actually a very big space today. So early Facebook groups that I joined when I was starting to write Python helped me a lot to actually understand and debug code and stuff like that. In the Web3 space, I've really benefited a lot from the Gnosis ecosystem and the Base ecosystem as well. So these are some of, like, the most influential in the sense of from the Gnosis ecosystem, I learned a lot about how the early Ethereum ideology that spun off this whole ecosystem of Ethereum chains actually came about. So Gnosis was one of the first side chains to Ethereum. So
Notice. Can you spell it? No.
GNOSIS.
GNOSIS.
Yeah. So it has like the chain ID 0x64. That's chain ID 100.
You have it in your head. Damn.
Yeah.
Is
I
there
even, like, it's something that since the very beginning of the entire journey in the Web3 space, I've been, like, trying to understand why they're trying to do what they're doing. It's beginning to make sense now with all these L2s coming out, that, I mean, like, we can't really have everything on one chain. You need the world to actually be able to spin up chains for applications, for use cases, for communities, for countries. There are so many different dimensions in which the Web3 space is going to eat the world. And the ecosystem that is actually, like, positioning itself to do that is the Ethereum ecosystem. You could see this with all the powerful nodes that have enriched the ecosystem in Ethereum. You can see even Robinhood just launched an L2, yeah. So, like, there is quite a lot of innovation that this brings to the world by having that flexibility of, like, any application, any business, any country can launch an AI2. This would happen, and like technology has been put in place for this kind of things to happen. So eventually, I hope to see countries launching their own L2s.
Without my comment. If I talk now, I'll be in big trouble.
I prefer really not to speak. If I speak, I am in big trouble. In big trouble. And I don't want to be in big trouble.
So shout out to the Genesis community, to the base community, and then to the Python developers community. Yeah, you are doing a great job.
Yeah.
Shout out to you guys.
I used to maybe want to mention the ITEX community.
Okay, yeah, the IoTex community too.
Yeah, we say building the hardware side of the messaging protocol in collaboration with the ITEX ecosystem. It's one of the few ecosystems in Web3 space that has like this hardware focus.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to do blockchain Web3 with hardware in mind. So as a builder that was trying to do the same thing, finding them and discovering them early on really helped us to get like an understanding of how these two technologies play together. See an example of apps and products that people are building across these two dimensions. And
So what has the experience been like building on base?
I think one of the underrated things about Base is that many people don't understand that it's actually very important that Base was like an EVM compatible L2. It actually made it a lot easier for developers to like get started, use existing tools. You can easily like start building on Base, because like your code that you already like have been working on for maybe like 6 months, I want to put it to this new ecosystem. Yes. You don't have to like write everything from scratch. So that like was like a very interesting thing that they did when they designed the ecosystem and the virtual machine behind the L2 itself. It's not like it's a bad idea to try to put other virtual machines, but for something with the vision of Base where you want to put gold on chain, it made sense that you actually had to try to be EVM compatible to start with. Allow everything that already exists in the Ethereum ecosystem to be applicable to Base without like a lot of friction. So I had that friction like with some of the other chains that are out there, maybe even Solana. Trying to build on Solana means like going out to start a whole new programming language, and I can't just take the code I've already written and deploy it to Solana. So you can still do a lot of work to get it deployed there, but that friction that exists there makes it like a no-brainer for, oh, what's this Base thing? Can I build on Base? Let me see if this smart contract will run. It runs, and like, wow, okay. It's really cheap to do transactions here. It's bustling with a lot of new users and activity. There's excitement here, and you just keep developing in the ecosystem. Like, you don't even have to think about it. That's the fun part. If you had to like mentally stress yourself over like, okay, how do I convert this code to like work in the ecosystem? What's different in this place? What are the gotchas that exist in my code now that I've put in a new chain that was not built in the first place to work with? So I really like the fact that the chain is EVM compatible. Yeah.
What is the worst advice you have been given, and what was the best advice you have been given so far?
Okay, I think one of the worst advices I've been given was to, especially with regards to this making protocol that I've been working on, is don't do it. It's going to be hard. Yeah. It's going to, never failed at doing this shit. Like, what makes you think you'll be the one to succeed at doing this thing?
Yeah, the government feels already.
Like, are you saying you're better than the government? So that kind of advice that people say it out of the fact that they see the challenges ahead, they can see maybe how naive you are, with blinded by optimism. Yeah. You just want to do this thing, you're excited by it, and you just dive headfirst into this problem without actually seeing the whole thing. So most people tend to like give you that advice that, okay, I'll advise you not to waste your time on this thing. It's easier to do this, or maybe just like, if we just do this thing, like somebody can tell you, let's just airdrop farm. We can make a lot of good money in drop farming. Let's build an MEV bot. Good ideas, but if I'm doing it just because I feel that something is too difficult in the first place, like something I actually want to do is too difficult, I would end up doing something that on the surface looks easier, but when you start to run into challenges on that other thing, you find out you don't have the passion, you don't have the drive to actually stick it out, and you give up on that thing, and then you don't want to even go back to your original idea because now you already like lost interest in it. So yeah, so that's about some of the like worst advice I've gotten to not do what the thing that you're actually like very eager to do. The best has been about mostly about maybe not listening to everything that the customer has to say. I think that's like a very counterintuitive advice.
I'm
But
very
I
counter. What do you mean? I mean, I think
Yeah.
customer is always right. And I think we should not listen to. Are you serious?
Okay, so I think there's a lot of pitfalls to completely listening to the customers.
Okay.
There's also this quotation by Henry Ford that if they had asked the customer what they want, they would have said a faster horse.
Yeah.
So it's like something that doesn't seem to make sense when you first hear it, but it's when you get into the business side, that's actually like try to listen to feedback from the customers. You find out that most times what people are saying is not exactly what they mean or what they want. You have to like apply some level of Fourier transform to it to actually like get out the real insights and advice or the feedback versus what the person is bluntly telling you to do. You just need to kind of have it at the back of your mind that you should take every feedback from your customer with a grain of salt as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
So for someone watching this video and they are having doubts to start an initiative, a project, a community, start learning programming, or they're just scared to start, what is the advice to that person watching this video?
I think there's nothing to be really scared of. Obviously, you have challenges doing something new. You're not going to be perfect at something that you've not tried at the first time. But you just have to believe in yourself. Give yourself the benefit of the doubt. This thing is hard, but I'm good. I'm like, I can take challenges. I will figure this thing out. If it's something that you're really, really excited about, if it's something that you have the drive enough for, you see yourself doing it even in the face of all those challenges. And sometimes you'll be like really scared and you don't know what the future holds for you in this path you're taking. But if it's something that you are really eager to do, you'll find yourself just doing it regardless. So getting started is the hardest part. Just once you get past that fear and start, I think you actually like have done like 90% of the job, because it's that fear that prevents you from starting, keeps flooding your brain with these ideas that like maybe unfounded beliefs about the challenges you're actually going to meet versus how you're going to deal with them. But when you actually get into the game, you start dealing with those challenges for real, and now begin to see that, okay, I'm up to this. I shouldn't be that scared about this. Let me just keep going. And yeah, it all works out.
One thing I've gotten from what you said is that the hardest part is beginning to start. If you have started, no turning back. Like that.
Yeah.
And then we're at the last section, a very interesting section.
Okay.
So give a shout out to 3 business that inspires you.
So I want to give a shout out to Ugochukwu Arono. Okay. Really, really inspired by the founder of Ethereum, Vitalik Buterin.
So Vitalik, hopefully you watch this video, but then
Yeah.
shout out to you, Vitalik.
Yeah.
Shout out to you.
I want to give a shout out to Jesse of Biz.
One of these. Jesse Pola, shout out to you.
Yeah. So it's been an interesting journey watching Biz go all the way from launch to where it is today, overtaking all of the roll-ups that has existed before their arrival. The amount of marketing and aggressive push that Jesse has given to Biz is really inspirational for any founder in the Web3 space. So learning a lot by trying to emulate their footsteps, trying to portray that same amount of energy, trying to actually like show people that this is possible, like crossing that line from just talking to Web3 native people only, talking to people in the real world, and making them as excited as I am about this thing that we're building. So Jesse is like a really strong inspiration for me.
That's massive.
Yeah.
That's massive. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to Gochu Karono. Shout out to Vitalink, and shout out to Jesse Pollack for inspiring ichristwin.
Yeah.
Or Christwin. Oh, I am Christwin. Well, inspiring ichristwin. And today we've come to the end of Builders Corner, and yeah, that's it. But then if you're looking for a co-working space, or if you're looking for a place to go for your productivity as a creative, as a developer, as a programmer, or whatever niche you belong in, Cafe One is your best bet. So visit the Cafe One close to you today and be very productive. Thank you.